When we accept that we have the power to use it and we take that responsibility to do so, we transform lives.
We are the ones. We are.
Yay, thank you so much, Lainey, Cleo, and the rest of all of you, and Fern, and everybody, and the ritual team, and the band, and all of you. Thank you. We are the ones. Every one of us, we're the ones. Yeah. It's that dang personal responsibility thing, right? Fundamental to science of mind teaching. We are the ones. Nobody's going to come in and swoop in and fix our lives for us. Drat. And yay at the same time, right? Isn't that the whole point? Yeah, and so it was really interesting yesterday talking, listening. I was not feeling well. I wasn't able to go, so I got to watch some of the things that were on the news. And I saw a beautiful 11-year-old gal give a talk from Washington, D.C. And one of the things she said is, we're changing the narrative. We are changing the narrative. Now, that's an extraordinary statement for an 11-year-old to make, because that means that 11-year-old understands the power of the word. Because that's essentially what it means. Do you see, this is what we teach in the science of mind, that we narrate our life into existence. We narrate it by the words that we use, the thoughts that we have, which become the beliefs that we believe, which are then outpictured by the universal law. And the way in which we narrate our lives become the memes. They become little shorthands. We call them our beliefs, but they're really memes that then begin to take hold. And they take hold of us individually, and they take hold of a culture, whether it's a corporate culture or a church culture or a family culture, and they take hold in the larger culture of the world. And so these memes become well, we think of them as becoming then truth, right? Because we've come to believe them to be so. And it is an extraordinary thing for us to do in our own lives, to say, I'm going to narrate a new story. I'm not a victim of my childhood. I'm not a victim of the trauma. My dad didn't do it to me. I'm now an adult. I can now make choices. I can now tell a new story. I'm competent. I'm capable. Right? That's what we do. And when we learn the tools and the techniques, and we begin to understand something new about life itself that allows us to do this. And so, not too very long ago, here at CSLDallas, we decided to change the narrative. And one of the ways in which we changed the narrative is that we wrote a new purpose statement. This is how we began to change the narrative of who CSLDallas is. We are radically inclusive, spiritually progressive, transforming lives. And I've spent a lot of time thinking about this particular phrase this last week, knowing that this new Member Sunday was coming up. And the power of those words. Because you see, when I walked into a Science of Mind center when I was 17 years old, I did not feel included. I had left the religion of my childhood and was trying desperately to find something new to understand. And my life was a hot mess. In a big way. And I really thought about it this week. What did I find at that first CSL that I walked into well, I won't say what year it is. A very long time ago. And the words that came to me this past week, the words that came to me were refuge, comfort, and power. Refuge, comfort, and power. And I think that's what this statement is about. I found refuge when I first walked into a Science of Mind community because nobody looked at me funny. They really didn't. They were perfectly willing to accept me exactly and precisely as the hot mess that I was. And what was even more astonishing, they loved me anyway. Actually, for the first 6 months, I didn't let anybody hug me because, well, I knew they were fake. Because I knew I wasn't huggable. Because I knew I wasn't lovable. So nobody could really want to hug me. Do you see? They persisted. I know. Damn, over my objections, they persisted in hugging me. And it began to become slightly, I began to entertain the notion that the hugs meant something, that they were actually real. And that as I continued to swirl in my life and have all the, requisite relationship traumas and drug and alcohol traumas and all of that, they continued to love me because they saw the truth of me. That's what radically inclusive means. That our community is a refuge. It's a refuge in times of trouble. It's a refuge when we are feeling like we've fallen off our own spiritual path. It's a refuge when the going gets tough. It's the refuge when we feel out of step with our family, with our workplaces, with the people around us. It's a refuge where we can begin to discover the truth of who we are and the unique way in which that shows up as us. That's what radically inclusive means. That means that we don't expect everybody who walks through these doors to be all put together, no matter how it might look on the outside. And we are a strong enough and powerful enough and stable enough and centered enough community to allow each one of us to have our moments of being a hot mess and not to forget that we know the truth about each other. And so, radically inclusive means we're a refuge. And I invite you to take advantage of that. One of the things that I do notice is because we do practice a positive spirituality, sometimes when we're not feeling so positive, that's the time we stay away. And you know the answer already, right? Of course, that's the time when we need it the most. We need the refuge. And we need to be able to feel it as a refuge. We're singing the songs to lift our spirits and hearts. We're holding out hands not to scold or not to say somebody's doing it wrong, but to say, yeah, we've walked that walk before, each one of us. We've had those moments where we've stumbled or fallen or forgotten or gotten hooked in some old thing, and we're just going to love each other anyway as we grow through it. Refuge. That's what radically inclusive means. It also means that we're a whole community of funny bunnies. And isn't that great? We can all just be our own funny bunny self. And it doesn't have to be like completely consistent or coherent. People don't really have to understand us. It's really okay. Because we are the mystery of the miracle of the universe showing up as us. Nothing that we do will ever be all of us. Nothing that we do will ever be able to show all the miraculous, amazing, and unique and precious things that we are. And part of that radically inclusive is that you get to be one thing today and something else tomorrow. Right? That's what that means. Refuge. And out of that, for me, I found comfort. I found comfort in the fact that I no longer was being pounded on by a vengeful God. Somebody was checking off all my faults, paying attention to all the ways that I wasn't doing it right. I found comfort in the idea that, as annoying as it was to be responsible for my own life, that I could actually be responsible for my own life. Right? We can't do anything about anything if we're not willing to take responsibility for it. Not necessarily how it got to be the way it is. I didn't make my father an abusive father. But I was responsible. I could be responsible for now how I take that up. What's my narrative around it? What's the story I'm going to tell? How am I going to talk about it, think about it? And I take comfort in the fact that that does not define me. Do you see, that's what a narrative is. We use a narrative to define our lives. Actually, we use our narrative to co-create our lives. When we recognize that, when I recognize that I had the ability to write a new story, to create a new narrative about my life, that gave me so much comfort. And so when we come together online, when you're watching at home, or you come into the sanctuary and really have the experience of feeling that knowing, when we are in classes and we're exploring all of these things, do you see, we are seeking to progress spiritually out of all of that old stuff. That's what spiritually progressive means. We do the work to understand life differently, to examine our beliefs, to examine the structure that we have taken on somewhere about how life works and how the universe works and what's true about God. We take the time to examine it, to pull it apart, to look at what other people say about it, what other people have written and experienced about it. Do you see, we do all these studies so that we can progress, mature spiritually. And I don't know about you, but I take huge comfort in the fact that our understanding of the universe and the divine reality actually evolves. It evolves. It evolves personally, and it evolves collectively as we as a human species evolve. And so that's what spiritually progressive means. That we are constantly progressing in our spiritual understanding and our use and work with that. And we should take comfort in the fact that all of that is available to us. It's not, oh, here's the box. It was laid down some however many thousands of years ago, and that's it. And finally, the hardest thing that I had to make friends with when I walked into Science of Mind and began to really, really take up the teachings is I had to make friends with power. The power as the truth of who each one of us is. To really understand that we have the power through our words, through our consciousness, through the use of our minds, as we've been reading all month in this fabulous book, The Power of the Mind, to understand that when we understand the power we are using, we have the power to use it. But we have to take up that power, right? When I was first in Science of Mind, the big cliche word was empowerment. To be empowered. But it's not a cliche. Do you see? When we know that there is a power for good in the universe and we can use it, and when we accept that we have the power to use it and we take that responsibility to do so, we transform lives. We transform our life, and we participate in transforming the life of every group or any group that we're a part of. Whether it's our family, whether it's our workplace, whether it's our spiritual community, whether it's our city or our nation or the world. The power is the same. The kids said it. It's all about beliefs and knowing that consciousness is cause. And when we are empowered by our spiritually progressive understanding, do you see, when we're empowered by that, then that actually gives us the power to narrate our lives in a new way, to tell a new story, to speak a new word, to have a new thought. And everything that we do here at CSLDallas, from fellowship in Pankey Hall to all of these things, this represents right here all of the ways, all the things that we do that this community and this organization is about, so that we can find refuge, be radically included, and to be radically inclusive, so that we can experience the comfort of a spiritually progressive understanding of the universe and of ultimate reality, and so that we can experience the power of transforming lives, our own lives and all those lives that we care about. That's what that means. That's what we're up to. And we celebrate that every day. I want you to take advantage of it. I want you to take it up. The only way to participate, to experience refuge, is to be here, to participate. The only way to experience comfort is to do the spiritual work, to learn the principles and examine our own belief systems. And the only way to transform our lives is to practice with the power. And that's what we do together every time we're together, every time we're doing anything together. And I want you to take advantage of it. I want you to take it up. I want you to participate. I want you to have the benefit that I have received, that those of us who've been here a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, we can tell you story after story after story after story after story about the difference it's made in our own lives, individually and collectively. I want that for you. I want that for each and every person. I want that for every person who watches these videos. I want that for every person. And so that's the light we are. And I'm grateful that we can be the light together. Let us pray. Just inviting you now as we close to hold that image of a lighthouse in your mind. We've sort of captured a little bit of that with all the light in the room, all the candles lit. And I know that there is actually one infinite lighthouse, one infinite light, one power and presence that is the light. It is the light at the beginning. And it is that light that is the word that moved into creation, that narrated an entire physical universe into being, that became the light that is your light and my light, and the light and life of all beings everywhere. And so this morning, let us dedicate and commit our lives to that light, to experiencing the refuge of its warmth, the comfort of its illumination, and the power of its transcendent reality. And let us absolutely know that this is, in fact, the truth. Grateful that we do know it. We let it be so. And together we say, and so it is.
There's one thing that I know for sure. This stuff really works. I know that if you apply these principles and put them to use in your life will not ever be the same. It'll be more grand and glorious than you can ever imagine. How do I know that? Because thanks to people like you given to a community over 10 years ago, I got to walk in and find these spiritual principles and put them to use in my life. And now I get to share these principles with you. So I ask you to give to CSL Dallas. Give to our purpose and our mission here, that we are radically inclusive, we're spiritually progressive, and we transform lives. And I know that what you heard today, when you put it to use in your life, it'll absolutely transform your life. When we're touched by this impulse of transformation and we give from that impulse comes back to us 1,000-fold. And we keep building and growing and expanding and touching the consciousness of humanity itself. And we're bringing love, purpose to this. So I invite you to go to CSLDallas.org and give. Or you can text, like I like to do. And you can do that easily by texting 972-954-4404. Set it up once, and then you text from that point on. It's easy to do. Thanks for being a part of our community. Thank you for helping us to expand our mission and purpose. And thank you for being the love impulse that humanity is awakening to in every moment.